What's good, people? Agent Jules reporting for duty. Well, after all of that Avatar talk in the previous video, I've decided to reawaken an old thing I did earlier in the year, and that is to make an OC for this cartoon and spin a little yarn for it. Now, for those of you familiar with this channel, you know that I don't just make any normal OCs when I do this. No, I always have to make an OP Mary Sue. And so, what better Mary Sue in the Avatar universe than making a new Avatar? Because the Avatar is the most powerful bender in the setting, and you gotta be the most powerful if you're gonna be a proper Mary Sue. So, let's go ahead and buckle into our favorite drawing program, or if you're a traditional artist, grab a piece of paper, go ahead and start scribbling away at your cringy self-insert character. Go ahead and have them smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let us go ahead and descend into the beautiful, beautiful world of OP Mary Sues in the Avatar universe. So, this Mary Sue, the next Avatar, what I'm going to do is I am going to do a what-if scenario of the Earth Kingdom Avatar that'll precede Korra. Now, when making a Mary Sue, it's not only imperative for them to be OP, but you also have to do the thing where they're totally related to an existing character. So I decided, let's kill two birds with one stone, and not only make this character related to a pre-existing character, but also use this character's family name, who happens to be very rich, and give the Avatar more power, basically. So if you can't surmise what I'm doing here, the next Avatar not only is an Earth King, is not just any Earth Kingdom Avatar, it's a Beifong. Let me introduce you to the next Avatar after Korra, Avatar Marie Beifong. So Marie Beifong, she is the Avatar. Of course, she is a Beifong, so she's loaded with legacy money. In addition, of course, you got to sprinkle all the good OP Mary Sue stuff. So not only is she all of that stuff, but I'm going to give her all the cool bending powers, right? So she can lightning bend, she can metal bend, she can blood bend. I'm looking at my notes. Lava bend, energy bend, and anything new that'll come up at some point, no doubt. However, there is one thing we need to do for Marie before we move forward with our story, and that is we need to address the elephant in the room. And by the elephant in the room, I mean the nerf in the room. For those of you familiar with The Legend of Korra, you'll notice that at the end of Season 2, there was a really bad thing that happened to Korra, in that she lost the connection to all the previous lives of the Avatar. The Avatar is not just someone who can bend all four elements. It's not just someone who can make their eyes, and in certain cases tattoos, glow and get like Super Saiyan powers. Not only that, the Avatar is a collection of knowledge of many, many people throughout all the generations. The Avatar is so powerful because they have the ability to access the knowledge and power set, basically, of all of their previous lives. And the moment that Korra lost all of that, she basically hamstringed herself. Well, she didn't do it. The Dark Avatar Vatu Unalak thing did that. But the point is, she got nerfed. And we don't do nerfs in this household, all right? If we're going to make an OP Mary Sue, the Mary Sue has to have everything. So, how are we going to solve this? Honestly, I went ahead and found a very interesting quick fix. Long story short, for the sake of this video, we are retconning Book 2 of Legend of Korra. And by we, I mean this YouTuber, RAZBUTEN, or RAZBUTEN. I don't know how to pronounce it. But that fool right there, he has a video that I will link in the description box down below of how he would rewrite Book 2. And it's really nice. I recommend you watch it. But for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and TLDR. He went ahead and retconned the end of Season 1 and most of Season 2 of Legend of Korra. Basically, he, instead of Korra, after getting her elements blood bent out of her, instead of Aang magically showing up and re-energy bending the bending back into Korra, instead that's it. The season ends with Korra having only her airbending. And then Season 2 is about her rediscovering the bending by revisiting the original masters of the bending, like the badger moles, the dragons, Sky Bison, and the moon. So, and then he kind of wraps it up with, it's really, I recommend watching the video because he changes Unalaq too, makes him less evil and more just kind of a sad product of his desires. But point is, Korra does not lose all the previous lives. So she keeps everything, and that's cool. We're keeping that part. So, for the sake of this video, Korra didn't lose all of her previous lives, ergo, Marie has access to all the previous lives, and therefore she is officially fully powered and OP. So she gets the Mary Sue seal of approval. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and tell a tale. Because for this video, I have quite a tale to tell for our dear Marie Beifong. You see, in this iteration, we're going to go ahead and give Korra a nice long life and allow Marie to exist in what is essentially going to be, technologically and in ways societally speaking, the modern day. In this modern day world, we have basically a prosperous society. There is still conflict here and there, but many of the major wars have been won. We are seeing an unprecedented time in history where everything is better than it has essentially ever been. And even though there are still minor problems that need to be addressed, you know, there are still people that need help, problems that need to be solved, we are essentially at a point where the strong people of the past have made good times. And here we find a tale of three sisters. Or should I say half-sisters, because they all have, for the sake of this argument, different mothers. You see, Marie is actually the middle child. She has an older and a younger sister. Her older sister, let's go ahead and call her Li Beifong. Li Beifong is a waterbender. And her younger sister, let's call her May. May Beifong is a firebender. And Marie, of course, is the earthbending middle child. Li, the oldest, she's a strong, you know, classic strong independent woman that, you know, don't need no man. May is kind of the more crazy, energetic, off the wall, kind of an edgy girl in a way. Marie is the odd girl out. You see, Marie is kind of tepid, a little meek. Not a total pushover, but someone who kind of just wants to relax and, in a way, I guess, go with the flow. Not quite like Kurik, her previous life, many moons ago. But definitely kind of that, more Aang, less Korra, if we're going to use avatars as examples. I guess, long story short, I would call Marie a hippie at heart. That's kind of who she is. So she's a contrast between her two sisters. At the start, these three sisters are the classic affluent rich girls. You know, they hang out with other rich girls because they're all Beifong. So, you know, they hang out with other rich families. They do rich girl things. They're basically separated and insulated from the rest of the world. Bit of that affluent disconnect. In addition to this, they also like to kind of, you know, be crazy and act out, and what you'd expect from rebellious teenagers, especially rebellious teenagers with lots of money. They all kind of act out in their different ways. May, in particular, as I mentioned before, is a bit of an edgelord. She really likes to troll people and, like, you know, get under people's skin for a laugh and a half. Lee is kind of more of, like, you know, the boss bitch kind of girl. She's not as edgy as May, but she kind of definitely likes to throw her weight around. Marie, she's just kind of there to keep the peace between the two girls, mostly. She kind of laughs along with it to kind of fit in and everything and just make sure everything is status quo is maintained for her life, so to speak. That is, of course, until the fateful day that Marie is named the new Avatar. And now the dynamic has changed a bit because all eyes are on these girls even more. Because it's one thing if you're just rich girls doing your rich girl thing. It's another thing if one of the rich girls happens to be the new liaison of the world, both mortal and spirit. It's kind of a big deal in this universe. You know, so Marie is kind of scared of this new role of hers. You know, it's a big thing. She again, much like Aang and less like Korra, she's kind of hesitant about taking on the responsibility of being the Avatar, and she's not really sure about herself and everything. And because of this, she needs to. She starts thinking like, maybe I should start. I can't do this rich girl thing anymore. I need to start paying attention to the world because I want to be a good person. I'm a good Avatar. I want to help people. In a way, this kind of also wakes up Lee a little bit. Lee kind of indulges Marie because she wants to be a good older sister. She's like, all right, I get you. You want to be Miss Helpy Pants. I guess I'll go ahead and help you out. May, on the other hand, May doesn't want to give up this fast and wild trolley lifestyle of hers. So she kind of dismisses it and says, you girls have fun. Go ahead and be losers. Just because you're Avatar doesn't mean I have to act like an Avatar. So go ahead and be lame and help the poor. And she runs off. So now you have Lee and Marie starting to, get a little more active in the activist circles. For you see, as I mentioned before, even though this world has seen untold prosperity, there's still problems. For example, there's still remnants of the whole non-bender versus bender, marginalization, if you will. And of course, that is a very good point, because if you think about, of all the things to have a divide, bender versus non-bender is very clean cut, because it is literally person or person with superpowers. Okay, there is a massive quantifiable disparity between those two kinds of people. So that, of course, is something that would easily draw the attention of someone who wants to do good, because, you don't want people with literal superpowers putting the boots against people who literally can't fight back, unless they had technology. And of course, we're in the modern day, but the point is, that is something that occurs in this world. Also, you have, let's just say, the air nomads, right? The air nomads were genocided, which was really bad. And so even though airbenders are now back, there's still remnants of, their culture is not really prominent in the world because they had a literal whole century of not being around. So that's also a cause. Just kind of examples, right? Non-bender versus bender, air nomad representation, and then the usual, poor people. And there's, of course, going to be racism because we're humans and we do that kind of weird nonsense to each other. And then, of course, with all the activists, you get the usual detractors and the people who want to be edgelords and say, oh, you people are whiny, you're complaining about problems, look how prosperous the world is. And, of course, activists don't appreciate that, which is totally understandable. You don't want to minimize people's lived experiences and actual problems. And May, being the edgelord that she is, wants to join in on this joking and prodding and poking. Some people joke, some people like edgy jokes. People like edgy jokes. I love edgy jokes, right? The problem is that May is falling into a crowd of people who push it too far. So the problem is with May is that her edginess has started to take her down a rabbit hole, if you will. For you see, May is a firebender, and we know that firebenders have a checkered past. Perhaps she falls into a crowd of people who want the firebender supremacy that was fought for during the 100-Year War. After all, if you read the comics of the times that precede Last Airbender, you know that there's a group called the New Ozai Society, or Nazis, if you will. And perhaps May, being the weird, cringy edgelord who's looking for some kind of unity that she lost with her sisters when they went to go play goody-goody, falls into for one reason or another. Does that make her a bad person? Maybe she's just someone who wants to find something that she lost. But the point is, she gets into the bad stuff. Maybe she falls into this bad crowd because her being a firebender, maybe she feels like people have wrongly accused her of being part of this group anyway. Because you'll always have people, when you're trying to be an edgelord or a troll, accuse you of being the worst. And so now she wants to kind of fit in with other firebenders who feel like, they're being improperly labeled, and of course that leads down its own rabbit hole. Of course, the other sisters, when they realize that May is going down this rabbit hole, they're saying, you kind of need to chill. Marie is like, please chill. Lee is saying, you need to cut this out, man! Cut it out, May!
Shut up, May!
But May doesn't, until maybe May sees something, because, again, I don't think May is a bad person. So she finally realizes, I don't think she needs, someone to die for her to snap out of how insane these people are getting. So as soon as she sees these Nazis do something so egregious that it goes beyond being edgy and is actually being serious, it freaks her out. And she says, I do not want to be associated with this, because this is cutting really close to home. Because, you know, I'm a firebender, and, you know, it was fun to joke about it, but now I see you guys are serious, and this is scaring me. And so she backs out. It scares her straight, if you will, and she does a complete 180. So distraught, she returns to her sister. She says, like, no, you were right. This was insane. I'm going to atone for my sins, basically, and help you guys. And Lee and Marie are like, wow, that's great, cool. So the sisters are back together once again, and May dives headfirst into the activism. And so the sisters continue helping, you know, Marie being the avatar. She's actually quite pleased right now. She's got her older sister kind of leading the charge because she's a nice, strong woman. And now her younger sister is using her edgy craziness to redirect it into something good. Until they start to realize that May is showing a lot of gusto in activism, not so much in helping people, so much as going after the trolls and the haters. She lays heavy into any criticism that the activists have levied upon them, to the point of even going so far as to accuse these edgelords of being Nazis themselves. And at first the sisters kind of write it off as, oh, that's just May being May. But the problem is that May is really pushing into just pointing the finger at everyone who detracts, being like the worst of the worst. To the point where Lee kind of has to say, hey, May, they're not Nazis, they're just assholes. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, but you can't just go pointing your finger everywhere because you're detracting from the serious nature of who these new Ozai Society people actually represent. The problem is that May is not willing to listen to Lee. In fact, May kind of turns against Lee, saying, yo, you just don't get it. I was part of this. I got steeped into this. I was radicalized by this, and I refuse to let these people get away with what they were professing. Of course, Lee doesn't like May snapping at her, and so they get into a little spat. And Marie, seeing her sisters fight again, is once again like, oh no, we're being torn apart. And this kind of, you know, troubles Marie. So she says, hey, can we please get along? You know, maybe May is right. You know, the new Ozai people are totally crazy, and they kind of, you know, they need to be called out. But maybe Lee is right too. You can't just like say it to everyone. She's trying to placate both sisters. But the problem is when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And both sisters just see Marie as trying to apologize for the other. So I imagine that their whatever activisms and things that they go to, the sisters continue. But the problem is now there's an uncomfortable rift that is kind of unspoken, but that can be sensed by all three. And now May is starting to pal around with people more closer to the way she thinks these days. And the weird thing is that these adamant, militant, you know, anti-bigots are starting to be made up less of the marginalized people who are trying to fight for better ways of life, and more from other rich, affluent benders who see the problem of the marginalized, but are focusing less on the work to fix these problems and more on the thrill of calling out the people they're against, these Nazis, fighting against them. It's starting to become less of an activist, of a proactive activist movement, and more of a riled up revolution fighting force of some kind. Marie starts to take notice that, you know, May is starting to hang out with these kind of more militant people. Lee does too, but as of right now, the other two sisters don't see it as a concern because they're thinking it's just May. Let May be May, okay? At least she's still fighting the good fight, right? That is until the sisters start talking to each other in private at some point. Let's say they're sitting together one night, just finally wanting to, like Lee and May finally wanting to talk to each other, and Marie seeing this as a breath of fresh air that the sisters may be reconciling. And May talks about how she believes that the way to actually defeat bigotry is you have to target the systems that are perpetuating it. And the way to do that is to go after people's entertainment. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say, for example, they start talking about Nuktuk of the North.
When Unalaq starts trouble, he'll punch him in the mouth. He's Nuktuk, the hero of the South.
That one show that was made hundreds of years ago not hundreds of years ago, less than 100 years ago, starring an earthbender who happens to be a waterbender, and it was made as propaganda. And May is saying, like, we need to ban this because it's bizarrely problematic. It doesn't match the modern day views of what progressivism should be. And Lee's like, are you serious? It's a show. Wait, are you serious? It's just a show. Are you really wasting your time trying to get an old, weird show off the air when there are bigger problems that need to be solved? And of course, May doesn't like that talk. Why are you minimalizing, a problematic show that could be encouraging people to go down the dark path? And Marie is quickly singing, uh-oh, this is not the amicable mending I was hoping it was going to be. So once again, Marie tries to say, hey, maybe one side has a point, maybe the other side has a point. It is kind of, we shouldn't be encouraging old things that show, problematic imagery, but at the same time, do we really need to be worrying about this when there are bigger, more pressing issues happening? And again, she's trying to please both sisters, but when you try to please both, you end up pleasing neither. And as Marie feared, the rift just grows stronger between her two sisters. At this point, it's very clear that May and Lee have had enough of each other. One thinks the other is absolutely insane for thinking the way they do, and Marie is seeing that her sisters essentially are representing the microcosm of what's going on in society, because again, you're getting this really concerning rise of a radical side who claim to be part of the solution but are creating a lot of problems, and yet believe wholeheartedly that what they are doing is the right thing. And so because Marie sees that she can't handle this problem, she starts thinking, maybe this is a me thing. I'm the avatar. I need to be able to solve these problems. Maybe I need more avatar training. So Marie conveniently takes off, right? And travels the world, does the avatar thing, like honing her bending. She's been doing a little training ever since being, announced as the avatar, but she's decided to take the more traditional route where you take a long sabbatical to really study the four arts. And even though Marie doesn't admit it to herself, the reason why she's doing this is kind of a way to run away from the problem, because she can't face it here. So she's thinking that maybe if I sequester myself and train really hard and be a good avatar, I'll have all the answers and I can face the problem. But not right now. I have to leave. And so she does. The thing is that this is the modern day, so it's not like she can just run away and completely shut herself off. I mean, she most definitely has access to social media. So every now and then she'll check in to see what's going on. She probably follows both of her sisters on Chatter. She follows them both on Chatter, and she follows their chats, and sees that they're both starting to kind of get at each other's throats more and more with each chat. But the more that Marie looks into social media, the more it increases her anxiety of seeing this divide. The more she kind of pushes it away, but she's also drawn back into it. And this is really starting to interfere with her avatar sabbatical. Until at one point, Marie discovers that May is now starting to join a new group who call themselves Equalists. Much like the Equalists of old that Korra had to face, these people are adamant about making sure everyone in society is on equal footing. However, their methods, as we know from history, were kind of questionable. And this freaks Marie out, and of course, as she's looking at her social media, this clearly freaks Lee out, and they call her out, saying, "Why are you joining this insane extremist group?" And she's saying, "Because they are the only ones who have what it takes to really make this world work." And even though Lee, being the more, again, aggressive of the sister between her and Marie, even though she's shooting back, saying, "Are you insane? These people were terrorists back in the day, right? They were bad people." And so May shoots back, "Well, their methods back in the day may have been bad, but we can do it right this time." That is what really freaks out Marie, because she doesn't know what to make of this right now. So this is kind of the point in Marie's story where she has, for lack of a better term, a Luke moment, when Luke is training with Yoda, and he sees visions of trouble and leaves the training prematurely because it's just worrying her too much. And so, I don't know what happens, but it's some kind of catalyst, some kind of tragic moment that happens within this united place, this united republic, that this mounting powder keg of problems people have been having as they radicalize themselves finally sets off. And the worst possible outcome comes from having built this much tension, which is war. And in this war, these equalists have gone ham. They have made an all-out assault on the lives of the regular people, swearing up and down that what they're doing is fighting for the rights of the silenced, of the marginalized. Strangely enough, they themselves being made mostly of rich, affluent benders, and not the marginalized people they claim to fight. That's not to say that some of the marginalized don't fight with them, because remember, there are people who have a similar mindset, which is make this world a better place. The problem we are seeing is a difference of the means in which to achieve that end. And so now we are tying way back earlier in the video when I mentioned the retcon to make Marie more of a powerful bender, because she has decided, so paralyzed with fear with what's happening and being afraid she's a bad avatar, she decides she needs to consult her past lives. Maybe seek some help, much like Aang did when he had his own existential crisis of whether or not he should, take the life of Ozai, even though it goes against his beliefs. So she consults her past lives. Who amongst her past lives has the closest analog of what she's dealing with? At surface level, it seems to be Roku. I mean, Roku himself once was great friends with the person who ended up being the worst murderous dictator in all of Avatar history that we are aware of. And he gives the advice saying that your sister is going down a dark path, it seems, and you need to pull the trigger. It's basically the same advice he gave to Aang. He's saying, like, I have seen this, and this echoes very closely to the problem I face. You need to pull the trigger. And that scares May, much like it scared Aang. So she decides to consult the older avatars, we'll call them the boomer avatars of Yang Chen and Kyoshi and Kurik and Roku, and they're all basically saying the same thing they told Aang, which is like, nut up or shut up. You got Yang Chen saying you need to push aside your love because it's selfish to put your love of your sister over the safety and well-being of this world. Kurik is saying you can't just make lazy on Rolf's stump and not do anything. And of course Kyoshi is just straight up saying smoke the bitch because she's Kyoshi. And of course this is not working, but you know what? Marie has something, two things that Aang did not, which is Aang and Korra. And so she decides, what about the two most recent avatars? So first she talks to Aang, because Aang has faced this exact predicament before, trying to seek advice and not finding it. And the thing is that I believe Aang would probably say, look, Marie, I understand you're having a very difficult time and you are in very difficult circumstances. The advice I can give to you is not going to be what you think, because in my case, I was an exception to the rule of the other avatars, in that at the last moment, a magical lion turtle gave me special powers that allowed me to end Ozai's reign without killing him by stripping away his bending. Unfortunately, you're not just going to be able to walk up to May and strip away her firebending, because her firebending is not the source of this problem. Also, May is not the leader of this strange new wave of radicals coming out, because they are essentially leaderless. So I'm sorry, but my solution is not going to be your solution. So the best advice I can probably give as Aang, being a kind-hearted spirit, is do everything you can to stop whatever you can, and try to see if you can extend forgiveness and love to people. Maybe May is not Ozai, maybe May is Zuko, and you can somehow turn her. And Korra, strangely enough, I believe probably has a better solution. Or maybe not a better solution, but more like a more appropriate connection to this problem. Because Korra may say, understand this about May. Your sister is not entirely far gone, but the crowd she is with is probably not, and most likely not, what it seems. Amon, the original leader of the Equalists, was not an actual Equalist. He was a bender. He was using these people's beliefs to forward his own agenda, and I have no doubt that the new Equalists of today are doing the same thing. So you are going to need to stop the actual problem of these new equalists. But remember, there are good people who believe this, and you need to be willing to listen to them and welcome them back into the fold when they wake up to them being used. And so we come to the point where Marie returns to a world on fire. And what can she do? Well, the thing is that Marie realizes that she has to pick a side. But the sides are not what they appear to be. You see, when she returns, both Lee and May say that the other has gone mad. And she has to look and see who actually has gone mad. And so she talks to Lee because she always felt like she was more akin with Lee. And she asks Lee, what has been going on since I've been gone? Of course, Lee regales her with the tale of how radicalization has gone insane and started a war. And Lee saying, like, these people are using... Lee would be livid, I imagine, because she believed in helping these marginalized people. And now she's seeing a radical movement co-opting the name and beliefs of what she believes in and using it for nefarious purposes. And she says, make no mistake, I still wish to help people, but this is not the way to do it. And so Marie talks to May. And the problem with May is that when she greets May, May says this same thing, basically, that Lee has gone mad. She doesn't understand. We are actually making strides to make this a better place. And Marie has essentially finally decided to take a side. And that side is the silent majority. You see, when a villain in any story that you read goes out to cause a problem that the hero must fix, the villain does not see themselves as the villain. The villain is being proactive. They are seeing a problem and saying, I need to fix this, and I need to fix this in a concise and powerful way. And in so doing, they end up causing strife. Heroes are reactive by nature, and heroes represent a silent majority. You see, the silent majority ultimately cares about a civility of unity, peace, liberty, all of that good stuff. Stuff that is so universally loved that everyone basically likes it except, like, the truly insane. The problem is that the silent majority represents a group of people who can only be reactive, because in order to be proactive, you have to be extreme in some way. And the problem with extremism is that even though in certain cases, in certain doses, utilized in certain ways, it can be very good, it leads to great progress. If you overdose on extremism, you become the villain that you sought to destroy. And so Marie is basically telling May this, is that I'm seeing you want to help, but you're getting so spun up in wanting to destroy evil, you are becoming evil. And May just will not have that. You know, she points to, it's like, you talked to Lee, didn't you? And she said, yeah, I thought Lee was exaggerating when you were, when she said you were going crazy, but I think I'm starting to see it. And of course, May would be livid that she saw Lee first. I wouldn't be surprised if May, in her distraught thing, like, straight up calls her a traitor. You're going against everything you stand. You are an evil avatar. May is like shocked. She's like, whoa, okay, stop right there. Okay, I have to speak up now because you've awoken the silent majority. Marie is finally essentially nutted up, and she's saying, I'm not going to have you do this and destroy everything we're trying to work for. Why are you doing this, May? Why are you like this? And of course, May, just snaps right back saying, I've woken up. I've opened up my eyes. I see everything now. Don't you see that everything bad in this world has been caused by people like us rich, rich benders, even me being a firebender. That's a lot of red in my ledger, she says, basically, in not those words, but she would insinuate that, I believe. And you'd have that moment. May, are you ashamed of being a firebender? Are you ashamed of who you were born as? You have a point about us being more privileged, but that's nothing to be ashamed of, and it shouldn't be something that you're trying to scrub away as if it's some kind of sin. You can't choose to be a firebender any more or less than I could choose to be the Avatar. And how would May respond? You know what? I don't know how May would respond. I don't think she would take it lightly. I don't think in that moment she'd be willing to face that question in any logical term. If anything, she would probably just tell Marie to get out. Just leave! I know who you are now, she says. So now there's been a rift. Marie has, for lack of a better term, chosen her side. So what does happen next in this story? I don't know. I don't know who would win in this war. I guess we, as the audience, just have to wait and see. And you may ask yourself, well, of this war, which side is right? Which side is just? I can't give you that answer, because those of you who are watching have probably made up your mind. But I will say this. Whichever side is right is going to be the side that wins. Because as we all know, history is written by the victors. Dear Marie, you used to help the world so aimlessly. Dear Marie, you cannot fix a problem you can't see. Now you're stuck in the mess and you're struggling to break free. Dear Marie, no one wants to listen to your plea. Dear Marie, your little life just ain't what it used to be. Now the world's on fire and there's no room for decency. Now the world's on fire and there ain't no more decency. Yeah, your world's on fire and you don't know what it even